that even though we may not always have a ton of people in the live sessions, we can track visitors to our website. We get a lot of visits to our recorded Wednesday conversations. So that's good to know. So I'm so excited to be here with Kaaren. She has bailed me out of a jam or two in my career, and today is one of those things. Our Wednesday person decided that she wasn't ready to do a Wednesday conversation with us just yet. So Kaaren graciously agreed to step in. She's with Parent to Parent. And I love these because no matter how much I think I know, when I go to write a little blurb about it for the announcement, I always learn something I didn't know. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say today, Kaaren. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and you just tell me when you're ready. I'll screen share and we'll start the PowerPoint whenever you're ready to go.
Okay, so I'm Kaaren Hayes with the Parent to Parent Family Support Network program. And we do have a little PowerPoint that'll kind of talk a little bit about our services, just to kind of update folks. And there are also several people on here who know this program well. So please feel free to add your own comments or ideas, because I guess this began as a community effort, and it still is. And so I see this presentation today as just another extension of that.
Awesome, sounds good. So let me get us sharing our screens. I never know if this is going to kick everybody off or just me. It's always an adventure. So, all right, let's see. Present. Okay, Kaaren, can you see it?
I can, yes. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
You're welcome. So you just let me know when you're ready for the next slide.
Okay, so our name is a long name. We got started as Parent to Parent, and then we are a part of the statewide network of Family Support Network programs. So that name kind of got added on. And so sometimes we are known as Parent to Parent, sometimes we're known as Family Support Network, sometimes we're known as Parent to Parent FSNHC. So you may see us in different ways. We are a community and grant supported and donor supported outreach program of Appalachian. We're connected with the College of Education, and we have been around since 1988. So we are not new. We are still a too well kept secret in many places, but we have been around, and we do serve 7 counties. So it's Allegheny, Ashe, Avery, Mitchell, Watauga, Wilkes, and Yancey. So we started just serving Watauga primarily, and now this is our catchment area. So we can go to the next slide. So our mission, we provide support, education, and our goal is always to provide this in a caring way and connecting families. So in larger communities, there may be a lot of individual support groups or organizations. In our communities, while there are some groups who are focusing specifically on autism, we really don't have individual Down syndrome groups or learning disabilities groups or ADHD groups. So we have really tried to be there for families with all those different needs. So we're looking at diverse physical, emotional, intellectual, and also health needs. So families who have children with significant health problems, it might be heart problems, it might be diabetes. Those are also an area that we support. There are families who have a child born prematurely, and that's their only lasting experience. They don't have any other conditions that would where they would continue to receive services, but they may need some intense help at that initial time. And then fortunately, it's a very small number of families, but we are also supporting families where there's been the death of their child, because again, nobody has been offering that service in our area. Okay, next one.
And that was something, Kaaren, that I didn't realize till I was reading the website this morning, that that's a population that y'all seek to serve. So I'll ask you more questions about that a little bit later.
Sure.
Can I stick something in there? Most of our staff has experienced at least one of those, if not more than one of those areas, so that we're all experienced in that.
Thanks, Norma.
So, we got a big vision. We really want to touch every family in our community who needs our support. We also feel very strongly that we want to be a caring and compassionate organization. We want to be integrated into the communities we serve. We want to create a lasting impact. We do not want to go away. We have not, and we don't intend to. And we also want to increase understanding and acceptance of individuals' diverse abilities and special needs. So that's kind of our bigger picture. Next one, please. We have some really kind of core beliefs, and I'm sure there are others, but these are the kind of the ones that we talk about more often. We really think one of the greatest assets any child can have is a strong family. We believe that all children have abilities and gifts to give. All children deserve the opportunity to be the very best they can be. That when families need help, one of the greatest resources can often be another family. We also think that we all have a role to play in building caring communities that help create opportunities for our children. And we recognize that there really amazing and powerful change can take place in families, in our communities, in our world, when families have the tools they need and can see the potentials realized for their children. I think nothing helps a family to feel better than being able to do the best job possible of supporting their child. Okay, we can go to the next one. I think something unique about our program is that we have an open door. So many, if you know about the world of disabilities and services for families, so often they have specific eligibility requirements. They are, it's age, or it is disability, or it is income. It is something that limits where you can get your services. And that is just not true with us. The door is open, and our services are not limited by income, age of child, disability, health condition, any of those things. Also, there isn't any official intake process or need to be referred. All somebody has to do is just call us up, send us an email. It's really very simple. And there's no paperwork. And our services are free. So, and they're confidential within the limits of the law that anybody has to follow as far as confidentiality. But I think this is unique. Most services do not operate in this way. And I think this is one of the things that helps us be available to a wide variety of families. Okay.
That's pretty amazing to me. Like, I'm trying to think if I know another agency that serves children of all ages, don't have to do an intake or be referred, not limited by income, age, or disability, and that they're free.
Yeah.
I can't think of another. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I think also, we do have some other unique things about us. All staff, as Norma just mentioned, have this lived experience of caring for a child with special needs. Some of our staff have also experienced the death of children. So this is, we all carry that lived experience with us. And as we just said, families do not have to enroll with us. And they can come and go. We're here when they need us. They can call us up, they can get in touch with us. And then if that issue or that problem resolves itself, wonderful. We want families to be able to be as independent as possible. So come back when you need us, and we will be here. Our services, we really also try to be individualized. No one situation is the same. No family is the same. So none of our services are the same. So what we provide for each family is going to be different. And we've also mentioned it's this direct one-to-one connection. That I think also makes our program unique, or at least gives us that extra value of relationships. Because I think we are a program based on relationships and build relationships. And that we also know, and we've learned over time, and it's because families tell us that by helping, that when families are helping themselves, they're also helping others, and vice versa. So it becomes kind of a circle. And so we've tried to provide opportunities so that families can use their own experiences to help others.
It's okay. I'm not really planning on being.
And we can also help self-advocates as
Yes.
they go into adulthood.
Yes. So, so it's a variety of ways. You can show the other screen and I'll share a little bit more. Okay, so we have mentor families. We have a whole core of mentor families. And these are families who have that lived experience. They go through an orientation and then they are available to help a family one-on-one. So that's one way that families kind of share and use their experience. I think families find that it's a very healing process, I think, when you can use your experience to help somebody else. Families also do that through support groups. They also do that in terms of opportunities they have to share their experiences so that they can serve on other groups in the community. They can be a part of WCCI, for example, and also share their experiences. Now that we have some connections at the state level, their experiences are also helping to develop policy and and sharing those experiences, I think have really increased the opportunity for our families in our rural communities to have connections at the state level and have their voices heard there. And so individuals at the state level making those policy decisions really can have some more direct insight into how that plays out in an individual child and family's life. So we also have a newsletter that we would love to share with individuals. We have a resource database, and I think this is another way too well-kept secret. If you go to our website and you look on the left-hand side and you go to the resources, it really takes you to a whole other database. And there are all kinds of local and state resources about special needs, and it just goes on and on. And we also are part of a statewide network. So we coordinate with our sister programs across the state and occasionally even nationally, because there is a national parent-to-parent program. Okay. So this is just kind of a summary. We match families. We provide information on special needs, disabilities, and diagnoses. We offer support groups. We do training and workshops. And this is for families and service providers. We also work with foster families. We feel very strongly about promoting collaboration among families and service providers. When we all work together, we produce the best outcomes for our children. And our online resource database, again, is a too well-kept secret.
You okay?
So anyway, that's just a little bit about our program. Happy to answer any questions. And then I know you want to talk about how our program relates to the services that WCCI offers.
I'm gonna stop sharing so we can see everybody's faces. Like I said, I was so surprised to learn new things that I didn't know. I knew about the support groups. Let's see, one question that I have, and we'll get to my 3 questions, is if you're working in 7 counties, Kaaren, are you in all 7 counties? Is there a different director for each county? How does that work?
we have different staff in our different counties. So Teresa Emery lives in Burnsville. One of the things we really try to do is have our staff in the counties as much as possible and connected to those counties. So Teresa lives in Burnsville. She helps with Avery, Mitchell, and Yancey. And then we have some very part-time people in each one of those 3 counties that works with her. Diane helps a lot in Watauga, and also some in Ash and some in Allegheny, and also does a huge amount of work with our state level connections. Norma lives in Ash, and she helps in Wilkes and Ash and Allegheny. So we all, we're kind of spread out, but our staff all tries to kind of have the expertise of from the counties where they work.
And so for example, if there's a support group, is that unique to Watauga, or do y'all combine counties sometimes depending on numbers, or does each county have their own support group?
It varies. It varies. And recently we've been doing more by Zoom. So we've been opening things up a little bit more because right now we're currently not able to meet face to face, but we have a Watauga group. There is a Wilkes group, there is an Avery group, and there's a Yancey group and a growing Mitchell group. So the services are really pretty much determined by the needs of those counties and what they ask for, and what the families see as their needs and what will be helpful to them.
Got it. Well, I'll probably think of more questions as we go. One of the things I wanted us to talk about is how you see people with trauma histories. And then when I look at your list of people that you serve, that to me seems like an enormous range, from people who had babies prematurely to people with kids who have disabilities or special needs to people who've lost a child. That's just like huge range. So different types of trauma within each one of those populations. Can you talk about that? It's so broad. Can you talk about that at all?
You know, I think, and other staff feel free to chime in, or other folks, I think the first thing that would kind of, will be if somebody's in more of a crisis situation, there, for whatever reason, there's a new diagnosis, or there are new symptoms and no diagnosis, or there's something where, oh my goodness, I really need some resources. I've got this new issue, this new problem, and I don't know where to turn. So it's kind of newly presenting issues that are challenges that a family is facing. Then the other kind of thing I see, and I don't know, maybe one way to describe it is kind of like an ache. It's those things that are kind of always a part of a family's life who has a child with challenges. It's that what if kind of thing, or what do I do right now? And the issues may be a little smaller. It might be, oh my goodness, this is a whole new school year. I wonder what this is going to be like. It might be, I've got to figure out how to introduce my child to this new teacher, or there's some new therapists, or I lost my therapist, or I've lost my caregiver. Where do I find somebody? All the way to those larger kinds of questions about what's going to happen eventually. How my child's going to graduate from high school. How do I continue to have to create a world, an inclusive world where my child continues to have friends because they no longer see everybody at school? Will my child live independently? Will my child have a job? So there are those kind of broader questions that often families do come to us in one way or the other with those. And I don't know that they create trauma, but they create, it's something that is always there. Those questions, I think, are always a part of their life and always in their heart. And so it does create stress.
I was thinking like a heightened sense of vigilance, because you're always waiting for I know when my children have struggled with different things, whether it was mental health or addiction, you're always waiting for the phone to ring. There's always this sense of dread or doom. You're just like waiting for the next thing that you're going to have to deal with. And it is incredibly stressful and pretty scary. And
Yeah.
so I can imagine what you're talking about. And then when I was saying different levels of trauma for each thing, like I'm thinking of babies who are born premature. I work with a family who last year, right before Christmas, had a baby and it was born prematurely. And, and I think our first thoughts when that happens is you're going to go to the hospital until it gets up to weight, and then it's coming home. That baby's still there. And they've been traveling back and forth to Winston for 10 months. And learning about feeding tubes, and they have 3 other children at home, and they're trying to work, and 2 of the children are in public school, and one of the child is very young and still needs a lot of care, and just all the, not just the trauma of learning how to care for a bunch of new needs, but how to communicate with doctors and how to get back and forth to Winston and wanting to be there all the time and need to be here for their life. It's been learning experience for me, trying to help support them through that. That's a whole different set of issues from, a child who has certain challenges or difficulties that may impact school or peers, like you were talking about. Then a whole nother set of traumatic experiences when you lose a child. That, to me, I can't even imagine living through that, much less the difficulty of rebuilding your life after that happens. It's a whole nother set of trauma.
Yeah.
That's different than the other 2 kinds of things that we talked about.
Yeah. And, there are families who have had children in the NICU who they have post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, it is such an incredibly stressful, because some babies are there for a very short time and some are for a long time. It's months, it's weeks, it's months. And it is, it takes an unbelievable toll. Yes.
I remember my brother-in-law, and he wasn't young. He was probably 25, fell out of a tree and broke his back. It was about 20 years ago. And we went to the hospital to be with my in-laws, even the first 24 hours of them trying to figure out, was he going to walk, insurance and all that stuff. And even within 24 hours, I felt transported to another place. Like, I didn't care about anything going back at home, didn't care if I ever went back to work, didn't care if my bills were paid, even within a 24-hour, and his lasted about 5 days, and he actually walked out of the hospital. But it was the first glimpse I had into how completely something can take over your survival awareness and consciousness, to where that's all. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know how people who have chronic medical illnesses, them or their children, like continue to carry on with regular life. That just seemed like insurmountable to me at the time. That was all we could focus on, what was happening at the hospital.
I think that's so true. And I think it is, it just changes your world. And when people don't show up for our appointments, or they don't follow through with things, and we fail to remember that, or fail to put ourselves in that position, we sometimes judge too harshly, I think. But I guess, so while I see all that trauma and on many, many different levels, the other thing that I also see is resilience. Over and over and over, I see that. And that, I guess, is it's just one of the amazing things about doing this work, is being able to be even on the sidelines of seeing that happen in somebody's life and seeing how they do it. it just, it amazes me and it encourages me. And it gives me hope.
Well, that was our question number 2
Yeah.
was, and I think I can guess what you're going to say to this, but what the types of things that y'all do to help people build resilience. And we talked about the different programs with mentoring and support groups. And I can already tell by the way you're talking, you're going to say as much as we help them build resilience, they show me theirs. And so, but what are there other things that you can mention besides mentoring and support groups? I know from working with y'all that y'all pick up the phone and call people, that people are welcome to call you. But so what are some of the ways that y'all help people build on their strengths?
I think one of the first things is we really just try to be there with that person. We just try to listen and just be there with them with whatever the situation is. Because sometimes often the issues, they're not something you can just fix. It is something it's not saying that you can't improve things and there are not things that you can do to get things better and ideas that you can share. But they're complicated. And I think oftentimes what families need more than anything else is they just need somebody who will just really hear them and not judge and just
Walk through it with them.
Yeah, just walk alongside with them for that time. So I think, it is that it's that being there. I do think our program is very relationship focused. I think we are, it's and something that tells me that is that families, I mentioned that families can come and go. So in our support groups, we may have families in Watauga. We've had some families who have been a part of that group for probably 10 years. They come and go. They don't always come to every meeting, of course, but they are, there's that core group and there's that continuity. Then we've got families who are brand new, but they are welcomed by that group. So I think there's just this, I think relationships is a big piece of what this program wants to be and tries to be. And I think when we're doing our best work, we're successful at that. I think we're also, other thing I think about when talking with families is it's always, we tend to focus on the hard stuff, the challenges, the issues, and we can be extremely hard on ourselves. We don't give ourselves the same grace that we would give to a friend. And I think sometimes what we can do best for a family is help point out where they are being resilient, where their strengths are, and just helping them recognize that themselves, because we don't always see it in ourselves. We may see it in somebody else. So I think when we can do that, we're also doing good work.
Two things you reminded me. I remember this was years ago, 20 years ago, and I was talking about a mom and how much she was struggling and very much giving her that space to do what she needed to do. And the person I was talking to is a friend and a colleague. And so then like within a short amount of time, I started talking about myself and my parenting and how, just all the things I think are my flaws. And after a few minutes, she said, if you gave yourself half of the grace that you give this other parent that you're talking about, I think you would see yourself differently. And I've tried to remember that about the moms and dads that I work with, because I so agree with you when I say to a person, can you tell me what's going well? Can you tell me what you think your strengths are? That seems nearly impossible. And not just kids, grown-ups too.
Yeah.
Impossible for us to help people find their own resilience and their strengths. And anytime I ever say to a mom, I said it today, you're such a good mom. She started crying. She's like, nobody's ever told me that. Or when I say, I know this is really hard, but I'm just so impressed by the way you're hanging in there. And they look literally shocked, that somebody is pointing out in the ways in which they're being good parents. I remembered that about that conversation somebody had with me and tried to have that conversation with everybody. So I love the idea of pointing out. I try every time I have a conversation with somebody, once in the conversation, to point out something that impresses me or they think they're doing well, because it always seems like it's such a shock to them. And so I think they need to hear that more.
Yeah. And it can be so obvious to the listener, but it does not, you don't see it in yourself. And I think that is one of the gifts we can give, is just helping people recognize that in themselves and value that and know that they are doing the very best they can do in that situation. And it's pretty darn amazing what they're doing.
Yeah, the thing I say all the time, the number one factor to offset trauma is a relationship with a positive, consistent, caring adult.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I love to say is we have to believe in each other and we can't believe in ourselves. And so that being fully present and carrying each other through difficult times. And I've tried so hard now when my 17-year-old is talking to me to say, what do you want from me? You want my advice or you just want me to listen? And darn, if she never wants my advice, she only wants me to listen. So I'm trying to get better at that, but really just for people to feel less alone and that somebody's hearing their story and helping them carry that. So that resonates with me, what you're saying. So building resilience, we talked about relationships and helping people see their own strengths and being present for people. Any other thoughts that you have about helping people be resilient?
Well, I was going to share that there was some research that I came across, and I did send it to Denise, but I'll just mention it. It's out of the Search Institute, and it's really all about developmental relationships. And while they are focusing primarily on adult to youth relationships, I think it translates across the board. And I just really like their key points. So one is express care. It's essentially show me that I matter to you. It is challenge growth and push me to get to go farther. Encourage me and because by doing that, you're really believing in them that they can. So I think that's really important. Provide support.
Like here, I got it pulled up.
Yeah, there it is. Good. Yeah. So provide support. And it's helped me. I may need some help to complete some of these tasks. I may need some help I may need some new ideas. So be there with me, but believe in me that I can do this. Share the power. And I think this is something that is probably maybe more important when you're thinking about that adult to youth relationship. But I think it's also true in equal relationships, because we need to be doing this together. And so it's a shared responsibility and a sharing of the work. And then expand possibilities, which is, something that we really do a lot of, is connecting people to other resources, to information. So I think those are, and new ideas is something that we need to always do with our youth and our children. But I think it also works adult to adult. So I really like the work that this institute does, and their developmental framework. And I think it fits in well with, a lot of, they also talk a lot in their work about resilience. And I think all these fit into that, a model of supporting resilience too. So I don't know, I just wanted to share that because I found this maybe in the last year, and I really have liked I just like their approach.
It reminds me, I did a training one time in social work. I'm a social worker. Social workers are trained in empowering and advocacy. Somebody just asked me if we could send the link for that page or the page as attachment. I'll try to figure that out in a second. I was actually wondering how I could do that. And so I was in a training, having been trained in empowerment and advocacy and giving people's voices. And the person said, you should be asking somebody at least once every 15 minutes if they're okay with what's happening. And I was like, oh, I thought you meant just like a general sense of we're sharing this power, but it was as deliberate and intentional as and if I'm with somebody an hour, every 15 minutes, I'm supposed to be going, are you okay with what's happening? Are you good with this? Should we proceed? That just really helps me have a good frame of reference, a context for just how often that exchange needs to be happening. That was really helpful for me because it was so concrete to give me a really clear idea of what sharing power can look like, that it's more deliberate than just this, we're in this together kind of thing.
I really like
think
that.
That brings to a good point. I was thinking, I'd sit and think, being present in the moment you're with that person is key. But I think too, it's not trying to fix it for them, but give them the resources or the strategies to build their own resilience. And I think that's a key part of what we do. It's not so much that we go out there and try to fix all the ills that family comes to us, but we really do look at ways we can help them learn to build connections and make those, and share, like you said, share their power and just empower them to do the resilience, not us doing it for them.
And then I think those families also share it with each other. So it becomes this bigger thing, which is just, when you can see that in oftentimes in a group where families an individual will share an idea with somebody else, and then it grows to this and it grows to this and it grows to that. And it just becomes, in a 10-minute conversation, there have just all these amazing kind of new ideas have just, and doors that have opened of ways to look at a specific situation. And I think it's just, I just love it when that happens.
Yeah, different perspectives, different experiences, and we can learn from each other from our different experiences. I'm putting a link in the chat that I don't know if people can get to that thing you just showed us, Kaaren, from that or not. But it's from the Search Institute, and it's called Developmental Relationships. I'm gonna type that in the chat as well and see if maybe people can find it that way. Because I don't know if that link will work. Okay, and then typing and talking is not my thing I'm the strongest at. The Search Institute Developmental Relationships. So maybe you can use one of those things to find that again. So go ahead, Kaaren.
No, and if you can't, I'll send it as an email attachment. I'll figure out a way to get it to you, Denise, in another form too.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So talking about resiliency, other people's. Now let's talk a little bit about our own wellness. Because this sounds incredibly, and it's rare that I have one of these Wednesday conversations. Not like this sounds incredibly intense. So how do you stay well? How do you encourage your staff to stay well? Can you talk to me about that?
Well, I think as a staff, we try to help each other, remind each other of their own, remind each other of when you're doing a really good job, and remind each other to take a break. And and also problem solve together. If there's a specific situation that that we're struggling with, whether it's with the family or whether it's organizationally or whatever it is, talk about it and use each other as sounding boards and supports. So I think that is, I think we do a pretty good job of that.
Can I add in there? And I know I'm interrupting all the time and I'm sorry, but one of the great things for working with parent to parent is if we can't take care of ourselves and our family, we can't do a good job. So Kaaren is so understanding of that. I mean, it's been unbelievable. I've been here 15 years. I love my job. I could probably retire, but I don't want to at this point. But it's just, if we can't take care of ourselves, we can't do a good job. So Kaaren allows us to do that. I mean, I've even been in the hospital with my son and working on my computer for work, and it works and we can do it. But we have a caring and understanding director, which really helps.
Thanks, Norma. I went to the actual website and I put a link to what Kaaren was talking about from their website in there. That might be an easier way to access that. Looks like you can get that graphic off of there if you need to. And Kaaren, we talked once, you did a connection corner, I think, with me for WCCI, and you talked about, a lot of people talk about relaxing, and instead you like to do. That doing is your way of staying well, which I can relate to. So can you talk about that a little bit?
I guess for me, it helps to have a plan. I have to have, I need the big picture. That's part of who I am. And then I need a plan. And I can let the plan change. I'm okay with that because I know it will, probably maybe in the next 15 minutes. But it helps me, that gives me a focus and helps ground me, because I am a doer, and to feel like I've got a way to move forward, or at least move, and hopefully it's forward, gives me a sense of, it just helps me, it grounds me. It helps me feel like I'm going to get through this and I'm going to be okay. I think the other thing is I really, one of the things that has kept me in this work all these years is the families that I get to work with and the other staff. And when I see, I don't think I ever get off whatever kind of conversation it is with whether it's face-to-face or on the phone or even sometimes email, that I don't begin to have an inkling of a new way to look at something. And that to me, and then when I can apply that to my own life, it really makes a huge difference. But I really treasure that. And that gives me, it's a way of instilling that hope. When I can see it in others, then I'm going, okay, this is happening in our world, no matter how chaotic it is. This individual in this individual moment in time is making this difference. And to me, that is powerful. And it helps me get through the day.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. This individual in this moment in time. I love that. Because a lot of times social work students say to me, how do you keep doing what you do? Like, aren't you burned out? And I say, well, I've done this for generations now. I'm in my third generation. I worked with grandparents, parents, and now kids. And so I have the luxury, it feels like a luxury to me, of seeing generational change that may be small over time. And it gives me hope to carry on. But you really have to be able to find the growth, however small it may be, to be able to hold on and keep doing what you do. So I think that hope is a really big piece of it. I love the way you said that. Anybody else that is along with Kaaren want to add anything about wellness? One of my questions I love to ask is, how do you know? I used to only talk about the list. Now I talk about, how do you know when you need to do something for yourself or when yourself needs some attention? What are your signs or your cues that you need to do something for yourself?
It's when I feel stuck or am feeling, yeah. when I am not able to see some different options, when I think it's when I'm stuck, you know, then I know, okay, I've got this, boy, I better do something. I may not know what exactly, but I know I've got to do something. Yeah. That
It almost sounds like your vision is narrowing to where you can only see one possibility instead of all your options. And you realize that I get like that sometimes if I was at the doctor's office the other day getting bad news, and I could feel my vision narrowing, and everything else was closing down. And I was like, oh, and my mom was with me. She's like, you're not breathing. I said, I know I'm not.
Yeah.
I am surviving this moment. So I can relate to that. I've had that recently where everything sort of starts collapsing in on one thing, and you just don't have the same options and choices that you feel like you normally do. And so that's your version of feeling stuck. That makes sense. Well, if anybody has any questions or comments for Kaaren, please put those in the chat. If they're comments, I'll copy and paste them and let her read them later. Oh, Diane said celebrate each win, small or big. Absolutely. We spend a lot of time ruminating on the deficits and not enough time celebrating and feeling joy. Somebody wrote, when I started feeling like I want to burn it down, oh my gosh, somebody else said, the world feels that way. That is my personal mantra. I need to talk to you later. That I want to quit my job, move to Alaska. That's another thing I think. I know I need to take a step back. Yes, I can relate to that.
That's me.
We get together and have a conversation sometime. Those are my two cues as well. When I want to move to a potato farm and cut off all contact with the human race and burn things down, that's when I know I need to do something.
Denise, and I think another piece of this is, we're all in this work supporting a lot of needs, period, especially in time right now. And I think for me, that's where I get lost. If I get lost in those needs versus looking for those positive or the little wins or those little just things to be grateful for. If it's just, okay, hey, today I succeeded getting one thing on my to-do list. I think we have to be careful because we can get in that spin a little too much if we're not careful, but making sure we look for those things. And sometimes it has to be very intentional that we're looking for the good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look for the good. Another thing I say is find joy, because joy sometimes doesn't come finding us. And so you got to go out and search for it. But I like that one too. Look for the good. I wrote that down. Any questions that before we let Kaaren and her group go? Let's see. What does the training and certification or licensure requirements of personnel look like at Parent to Parent?
Well, the first, what we really try to build on is that personal experience. So we're looking for folks who really have personal experience, who have, who are kind of at a place in their life when they can, they've gotten beyond that initial trauma, that initial stress, and they're kind of to a place in their life when they feel they have the time and energy to be able to help somebody else. So it's really not so much educational qualifications, it's attitude, it's life experience, it is perhaps in some ways the way your outlook on solving problems. This is a hard question. I don't know. Anybody else?
Personality, it sounds like personality. And I
Yeah.
don't feel like y'all, like you've been there forever and a day. Do you hire often?
No, we could certainly use more staff. We just don't have the financial resources to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You know, we operate kind of on a shoestring.
So you probably take volunteers,
Yeah, we do take volunteers.
which might be a good way to get your foot in the door for being personnel.
Yeah, we do take volunteers, and students are an amazing source of help to us. You know, we work with a lot of app student interns. There's social work, there's psych interns, they come from all departments. And that has been an amazing source of just support. And I guess as we're speaking of support, I should mention Spooky Duke.
Oh yeah, I told you could.
Because you did tell me I could.
Yes.
So yeah, so Spooky Duke, which is our fall fundraiser, and it is October 16th. This year it's going to be face-to-face and virtual. So it is for those who are runners, it's a 5K and a 10K. It's also for walkers. And then for virtual participants, you can absolutely participate any way you want. You can dance, you can row, you can rock in your rocking chair. We don't really care. You can jump rope, you can walk with your dog. Just, you know, we do encourage some activity because physical activity does help our mental health and is good for all of us. But we really would love to have you participate. We're also going to have a silent auction, so you can participate that way. But it is a huge fundraiser for us, and I will share some more information with Denise and the ways that you can be involved with that. But
I put a link to the website and the race information in the chat.
thank you,
Thanks,
Janet.
Janet. I was going to do it. You beat me to it. So good job.
So yeah, yeah, stay tuned. There'll be more information coming about the silent auction. We're gonna have some really fun things. We had some good bidding wars last year. Maybe I shouldn't use the word war, but anyway, bidding opportunities.
Bidding opportunity.
Competition.
There
Anyway,
you go. Sounds
so-
good.
Anyway, yeah.
So the website's on the link on the chat. I'll leave it there for just a few seconds. If you want to see anything to Kaaren and her team, type that in the chat and I'll send that to them as well to read later. Kaaren, thank you so much. I knew I would learn stuff and I did. I appreciate you making time for us on such short notice. Thank you. And always good to spend time with you. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody that came with Kaaren. We appreciate y'all sharing your information and expertise and hope everybody has a good rest of their day. Look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.